start of the year you talked about ups and downs. Was last week is about as up and down as it gets?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like if you just looked at three-point shooting and free throw shooting, you couldn't have had two games more extreme. We made the same number of threes against Florida State on Monday as we did against Virginia Tech on Saturday. In one game we go 7 for 15 and are very selective. Another game we go 7 for 34 and wrote our own epitaph. Our field goal percentage, we shot 46% on Monday night, and we shot like 20% on Saturday. So, free throws. One night we missed 9, and the next night we missed 9. The difference is we go 24 for 33 from the foul line one night because we're really attacking the basket, and the next night we go 8 for 17.
I mean, maybe with the shooting, maybe not necessarily the free throws, but I mean, you've said it before. You know, kids don't shoot the same from night to night, but when there's such a great disparity, it almost seems like it can't be that simple.
Well, basically, if you're a very good shooting team, very good, you're consistently good and have a few bad games. But we're not in that category. We have to be very selective because we're not a great three-point shooting team. No. Offense is about getting in a good rhythm, finding the weaknesses in the opponent's defense and attacking that weakness so that you can score consistently well. I'm sure our players felt like, hey, they're giving me the three, I'm going to shoot the three. And it wasn't like we took a lot of bad threes, we just took too many. I tell the players all the time, you want about a third of your offense coming from three-point land, meaning about 17 or 18 threes a game. And almost twice that many from two-point range. So if you take, let's say, 55 shots, let's say you take 15 threes, that's 42s. If you take 20 threes, that's still 35 twos. But we took 34 threes and, I don't know, 18 twos or something like that. It's not the balance we want. It's exactly opposite of what we wanted.
So, I mean, they just fell in love with it, and
yeah.
Was there a point where, I mean, because maybe a shooter thinks the next one's going to go in, what are you telling them, you know?
Well, the thing about a game like that is it was harder to get twos. So, if you went back to our Syracuse game, we shot a ton of threes against Syracuse because they zoned us. Players tend to think, if you ask, if you go out there on the court, they're all practicing threes. Nobody practices twos anymore. And mid-range jumpers are almost a lost art. You either get a layup or shoot a long shot. And that's not the way the game was designed. In 1986, when the three-point shot came into existence on a full-time basis, coaches were scrambling to figure out, okay, this is a new weapon for us. How often do we want to use it? And you have to have a balance, just like you have to have a balance in your life. I want twos, layups, mid-range jumpers, free throws, and threes. The only one I would like a lot more than the others is free throws. If you could get a lot more free throws than the opponent, that would be very well worth it. That's why getting 33 against Florida State, because we were very much an attacking team that night. Against Virginia Tech, we were a team that settled for the first open shot we could get, which was a three-pointer.
Notre Dame seems like they like to mix it up a little bit defensively. Do you know it's going to be different than the Virginia Tech, the way that you were
No, I have no idea how we'll play Wednesday night. You know, that's the thing about our team. We don't play the same way every night.
Is that a mindset, or is it just a matter of what the other team's giving you, or?
It's a combination of skills and what is available. Virginia Tech is very big, and they've got good shot blockers in around the basket. And unlike early in the season when we played them, they played almost all 2-3 zone the other night. And against a 2-3 zone, you get a lot of open looks from three. And you have to encourage your players to look for that open shot, because driving to the basket or getting inside the defense may lead to a block shot. We tried driving a few times, it ended up being turnovers. But in the second half, we also drove. Eric Swope got to the basket, Gary Adams got to the basket, Ryan Brown got to the basket, and that's when we played our best basketball, where we had a combination of drives and then kickouts.
And one of the big things, of the storylines of the season that's developed is home versus road games. I know you mentioned on the conference call you're not quite sure what's going on. Is it just that they do better when, I think some of the guys mentioned they do better when they're facing some adversity. Is that kind of?
I don't think that's true. I think, when you ask the question, somebody has to come up with an answer. But I think really there's a number of factors. Number one, when you are at home, your daily schedule is a little bit different. You've got classes to go to, you might have study hall, but your schedule is pretty packed. On the road, you have your shoot around and you have the game, and everything else you can rest. Guys can study in their own room, but it's much quieter. But on the road, you're facing the adversity of the crowd and not being as familiar with that facility. But I think our lack of success at home here can really be attributed to the inconsistency of our performances throughout the year. We just don't play the same way on a regular basis, the individual player. And a lot of that is guys playing out of position. We don't have a clear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 man. Gary Adams has been playing the point the last 3 games exclusively. And if you were to ask me before the season what's his best position, I would tell you the 3, when he's your 3rd best ball handler. And, our big guys are limited in their scoring ability. Tanya and Raph don't score a lot at the 5. So that puts pressure on the other guys to try to have to deliver, and it allows our opponent to focus just on the guys who shoot. And we've played very good teams here at home. Lost to Syracuse, Duke, NC State. So we would love to play a whole lot better Wednesday night.
Does the tempo, I know that you've decided that this tempo, works for this team, or it's going to work, cut the possessions. Does it put any extra pressure on an offensive player, knowing that they're going to have, 30 seconds and a shot or whatever it may be, but fewer chances to score?
Well, I think that's the whole idea of reduce the number of possessions in the game, and that puts the pressure on both teams. And one of the things that's happened, and one of the reasons why we're playing slower, is we have a hard time getting a good shot early in the shot clock. We come off a ball screen, the defense is pretty good at that time, first 10 seconds. As the clock moves on, a lot of times the defense will relax a little bit. You can pass the ball a little bit easier later in the shot clock. And sometimes you can beat your man a little easier because he's had to play 25 or 30 seconds of defense. Our defense has been good enough, it's not so easy for the opponent to get an easy shot against us either, so they have to slow down to work the ball around. So the combination reduces a game which normally might be 75 or 80 possessions down to 55 or 60.
But that's what you wanted, right, this year, based on what you had?
Well, it wasn't what I wanted originally,
Okay.
but once we got into games, it became very, very clear we could not be an up-tempo team. We had lost one of our guards, so our perimeter game was really hurt by the injury to DeAndre Burnett, because we had originally 5 guys that could rotate in and out, 3 start and 2 sub, to 3 start and 1 sub. That's a whole lot different. And as the season has progressed, I've had to move Eric Swope back there. His natural position is more of a 4-man, an undersized 4, just so that we have an additional body that we can play at the 3.
I know you said last week, Larran, with him in particular, having to play him so much at point guard, you felt like maybe hurt a little bit of his development on the wing. What have you liked about his game this year? What area do you sort of stress?
Okay, say that again. Who we asked about?
Davon.
Oh, Davon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Davon's best position is as a 3-man. I think he's similar to Trey McKinney-Jones in the sense that he's got size and good athletic ability that he can guard guys anywhere from 6'4" to 6'7". But his best thing is if someone else penetrates and throws it to him so that he can get an open jump shot. He's a good open shooter. But he is a respectable ball handler that he's played a lot of 1 for us and some 2. But he's going to be better off when he's playing with a full-time point guard.
Asking him and Gary is how often, just because maybe they like playing that faster up-tempo style, how often do they sort of come to you and say during a game, can we speed it up a little? And I guess the battle of you telling them, hey, we got to stick to what we do.
No, that's not a discussion. All players think they're better off running. And if we ran the other day a lot, chances are, instead of it being a 1 or 2 possession game, we've only lost 1 conference game by double digits, and that's Duke. And that's probably the fastest team in the league. We do not want to get into a run and shoot contest with the teams in our league right now. We don't have the firepower to do that.
There's never any temptation to just roll a ball and say, all right, guys, go ahead.
I remember doing that at George Mason with one of my teams that was very much a half-court team, and Coach, we'd like to press and run and really get after it. I said, fine, okay, we'll do that the next game. And we lost to Northeastern by 25, and then we had to play them in the tournament the very next game, and we beat them, playing smart. Every kid thinks he's the best fast break basketball player in America, and that he's best when he's in the open court. But what you don't understand as a player is you might be pretty good at that. Look at the opponent and tell me, is our team better than their team in that? Because it's not about one individual. It's, are we going to be able to keep up with at the pace that an up-tempo game creates? Now, last year, I wanted the game to be as many possessions as possible, for it to be as fast as possible. And I've said this before, we played Duke and Carolina, 2 of the fastest teams in the league. So we scored 90. And the reason is we got a lot of offensive talent. Shane Larkin can really score. Durant Scott can score in the open court. Trey McKinney-Jones is a great 3-point shooter. Kenny Kaji's really hard to guard. Reggie Johnson, Julian Gambrill are, the more space you give them, the faster you run, the more space you give a team. And the more space you give a good offensive player, the better he's going to score. That's why the NBA has all those NBA rules, to create opportunities for their really good offensive players to showcase their talents. But I don't care how much space we would give Tanya and Raph, they're not scorers. And our guards have limited experience.
Did you bottle any of the offensive performance that Tanya gave you against FSU? And
obviously not, because against Virginia Tech you got shut out.
I mean, stuff to build on from the FSU game with him, or?
No, that's the funny thing. You really get better during the off season you've got to work so hard between April and September. And then that package of new skills that you've developed, the coaches have worked with you on, and they see your development, then that growth can continue through the season. There might be some ups and downs, but you have something to build on. There's a foundation of the shots that you worked on during the off season. During the year, when you're trying to improve, it's really on the things you're already good at. Because if you start messing with the things you're not very good at and you're trying to improve them, guys will start doing them in games. They're not very good at it. That's why you're practicing. You're trying to add that to their game. Shane Larkin was one of those guys. When he was a freshman, he did not have a lot of high-arching layups where, he could score over big guys. All during the off-season, we worked on it, and he became a terrific high-speed layup maker who could shoot floaters and runners over the defense. And now he's doing it at the pro level. But you don't start working on those during the season and all of a sudden start trying them during games. You're just not there yet. You haven't had enough quantity, quality, volume to get it right. Oh, someone like Tanya, he needs to spend a lot of time on his scoring ability. Please don't do that. That's.
Sorry, I was stretching my leg out.
I know you are, and I'd like to do that. That kind of flexibility is exactly what I would like to have. He was twisting his leg. I can't even do it with my hand. It was going backwards.
Save the eligibility.
I want to ask you, in terms of having to make a transition, obviously, from one season to the next, so much roster overhaul. Have you ever had to do something like this before?
These first 3 years, next year included, it's the most variety of challenges that I've ever had. And it comes in so many different fashions. The first year was with injuries to Reggie Johnson, to Julian Gamble, the NCAA investigation, the suspensions of Reggie and Larran during the season. We had all of that going on. Then the next year, we had almost everything in place all season long except a thumb injury to Reggie. But while that was going on, we were also having to deal with the recruiting during the investigation. And that created a whole series of challenges for the staff. And now this year, with a whole new starting lineup, all new guys trying to learn their position, very, very, very challenging. And now next year, chances are we'll have a whole new starting lineup again, because we're starting now to end the season 5 seniors.
I was going to say, and then switching the zone too.
And having to make so many changes, offensively and defensively.
The team you have in practice with the guys that are obviously going to be eligible next year, do you foresee as much zone or not?
I have no idea.
No idea.
I mean, I would much prefer to play the way I've always played, but we have at least 4 new guys, 3 guys who sat out. DeAndre Burnett's a perfect example. I was very, very pleased with his progress during the summer. Then he broke his collarbone. Done for 3 months. Then he comes back, he breaks his wrist. Now he's out for the whole season. So we don't know what to expect. Will he be hurt again, or will he have a great freshman year next year as a redshirt freshman? There's just so many question marks. And I think it's one of the things that has been a problem in men's college basketball when the scholarship number was reduced from 15 to 13. And in addition to that, the NBA started taking players at a much younger age. So teams from the ACC have far more adjusting to do year after year after year from one season to the next than mid-major schools do. That's why you see so many mid-majors doing well in the NCAA tournament. Their continuity is much better. So if if I were to make a recommendation to the NCAA of what they should do, it would be get us back to 15 scholarships in men's basketball. And then you'll see the quality at the ACC level, the high major level, much better, and another separation between the high majors and the mid majors. But right now, you see teams from St. Louis, Wichita State, VCU, all of those teams doing very, very well. And most of them have not lost a player to the NBA, so they have juniors and seniors who have come through the program.
I'm saying one of the guys we lost to is Cornell there, obviously. What sort of...
Huge loss,
Yeah.
because Cornell was someone who could play man-to-man defense. He was someone that could guard the dribble very, very well. And he could handle the ball. And then maybe we could have two natural point guards, Manu and Cornell, sharing the point guard position, so we could leave everybody else at their natural spots.
Getting back to the NBA, NCAA thing, Adam Silver, I think, last night said that he would be in favor, or at least would be in favor of looking at an age limit of 20. I'm assuming that sits pretty well with you.
Oh yeah, that would be much better for both college and pro. You know, one of the things about the NBA, they're taking kids so early. You see, number one draft choice, Anthony Bennett, is in the D League. The number of first-round draft choices that are going to the D League. From a ACC high major standpoint, the rules are now drastically impacting the level of performance. So many players going early, so you're replacing them with rookies, whether he's a junior college kid, a transfer student, or what have you. He's still a first-year guy in your program. And I'd like to see that corrected.
All